Welcome to your deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling a fascinating subject, the nature of religious growth and spiritual living.
Yes.
We're going deep into excerpts from the Urantia book, and hopefully we'll uncover some profound insights together. What do you think?
I'm excited. This text is just like full of thought-provoking ideas.
It really is. And you know me, I love a good deep dive. So I have to say right off the bat, it really struck me how this text emphasizes the personal experience of religious growth.
Great.
It's not about inheriting beliefs or, checking boxes. It's about like a much more personal journey.
Yeah, it's an inner journey.
Yeah.
Would you say that? It reminded me, I was reading something years ago, and it was saying that, you can't just get religion from somebody else. Like, it's a tangible thing.
Right.
You have to discover it for yourself.
That's such a great way to put it. I love that. It's about discovering what truly resonates with you on a personal level, not just what you've been told or what you've inherited. But like with any journey, there are some obstacles along the way.
Yeah.
And the text calls out two big ones, prejudice and ignorance.
Those are big ones, for sure.
You really are. And I think it's so easy to fall into those traps.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about a time when you encountered a belief system that initially seemed really strange or even off-putting.
Right.
But then maybe as you learned more about it, as you understood the why behind it, maybe your perspective shifted a bit.
Oh, that's such a good point. It reminds me of how quick we can be to judge unfamiliar customs or traditions. Like, we see someone doing something that seems odd to us,
Right.
but maybe we just don't understand the cultural or historical context behind it.
Precisely. It's like we're seeing a single frame of a movie,
Yes.
and we're trying to understand the entire plot. We need that full picture, right?
The full context.
Yes. And speaking of pictures, I love how this text it paints this beautiful picture about how children develop their own sense of right and wrong.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that. That part really stood out.
It basically suggests that witnessing genuine loyalty in adults, like seeing it lived out, leaves a much deeper impression on children than, simply being told what to believe.
Right. Like just being given a list of rules to follow.
Exactly. It's not about preaching. It's about embodying what we believe in. Actions speak louder than words.
Right. Absolutely. It's not about preaching. It's about living it. Show, don't tell. I love that. But, it's interesting because we often associate spirituality with just feeling good or, finding inner peace.
Right.
But this text seems to suggest that there's more to it than that. Would you agree?
You're picking up on something really crucial there. This text, it kind of pushes back against the idea of spiritual growth as simply seeking like blissful ignorance.
Right.
It's about something deeper, something more active.
I like that.
Yeah.
So if it's not just about like seeking constant bliss, what is the connection between spiritual growth and, true happiness? That's something that I was really thinking about when I was reading this text. This part really resonated with me because I think it challenges like a common assumption we have about spirituality.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about just avoiding life's challenges or pretending like everything's always perfect, right?
Right.
True happiness, according to this text, is like it's deeply interwoven with our own spiritual progress. It's about developing this like unshakable inner peace that allows us to navigate those ups and downs with like grace and resilience.
I love that you mentioned like unshakable inner peace because it made me wonder, is that even possible in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable and just constantly changing?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? And I think the text gives us some clues, right? You remember how we were talking about those like supreme values earlier?
Right, aligning our life with what truly matters.
Exactly. So the text seems to suggest that like finding that unshakable peace comes from this deep-seated knowing that you are living in accordance with those values, regardless of what's happening externally.
That makes me think about, when the text talks about the difference between like what is value and what has value.
Oh, yes.
And I'll be honest, like I've used those terms interchangeably in the past, but they're not the same thing, are they?
Not at all. And that distinction is so important.
Right.
The text argues that like purely selfish enjoyment without considering like the bigger picture
Right.
or how our actions might be affecting others can actually like diminish the meaning in our experiences.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly chasing after something, a feeling that's fleeting,
Yeah.
rather than like building something more substantial and lasting.
That is a fantastic way to put it.
It just made me think about that passage in the text about the caveman and the saber-toothed tiger.
Oh, yes.
Do you mind like refreshing my memory a bit on that passage?
Of course not. So picture this.
Yeah.
You've got this caveman, right? He's standing there, club raised, this look of like pure anger on his face.
Right.
And our initial reaction, as a modern reader, we might feel fear. We might even feel judgment towards this like seemingly aggressive caveman.
Right, right.
But then we zoom out, right? And we see that there's this like a saber-toothed tiger lurking nearby,
Right.
threatening his family, And suddenly his motivation becomes crystal clear.
Right. He's not just some like angry caveman. He's protecting his family.
Exactly. And our judgment shifts,
Yeah.
We go from fear or judgment to this sense of like, wow, admiration for his courage, his, instinct to protect the ones that he loves.
It's such a powerful illustration of how our perspective changes when we understand the why behind someone's actions. We might initially judge the caveman as being overly aggressive, but when we see the full context, when we see that saber-toothed tiger, the need to protect his family,
Right.
our understanding shifts dramatically.
It's huge. And that shift in understanding is key, I think. It highlights just how much we miss when we only see the surface of things.
Right.
Right? We're so quick to judge actions without really understanding the values, the motivations.
The why.
The why, exactly, that are driving them.
Reminds me of that quote I think is often attributed to Maya Angelou, where she says, "People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel."
That's good. Yeah.
And understanding the why behind someone's actions can just make all the difference in how we interact with them and how we respond to them.
100%. It allows us to respond with empathy, with compassion, rather than with that knee-jerk judgment or fear. And, this ties directly into a really, I think, important point about growth that this text makes. Growth can be uncomfortable. It often arises from a place of discomfort.
Oh, I like that. It's like that saying, growth begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And this text addresses that head on. It says that, spiritual growth often emerges from those moments of conflict, those times when we're being challenged to replace, old habits, old thought patterns with ones that are more aligned with the, those higher values that we're striving for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think that really resonates. And I'm curious, have you ever experienced that kind of internal conflict where you're wrestling with new information or a new perspective? How do you approach those moments? It can be incredibly unsettling.
Oh, yeah.
To grapple with those things.
Absolutely. And it's like we're being pushed, sometimes kicking and screaming to expand our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Mm-hmm.
But that's so incredible is that if we can approach those conflicts with an open mind, with this willingness to learn and to grow, to understand the why behind our own discomfort and the motivations of others, it's like we open ourselves up to this incredible transformation.
It's like that caveman example again. If we can understand our fellow humans better, see the world through their eyes, we're more likely to respond with compassion instead of judgment.
Exactly. And that's where love comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how we were talking about how actions speak louder than words?
Yeah.
Well, the text so beautifully illustrates how love, genuine, heartfelt love, is perhaps the most powerful action of all.
Wow.
And, is more contagious than hate.
Mm-hmm.
It has this incredible power to create this ripple effect, to inspire change, not just in ourselves, but in the world around us.
That makes me think about how in a world that, often feels saturated with so much negativity, it can be really easy to feel lost in a sea of information. We're bombarded with countless ideologies and belief systems, and it's like almost information overload.
Right.
How do we even begin to navigate that and find what truly resonates with us as individuals?
That's such a relevant question, right? Especially today, with so many voices vying for our attention.
Right.
And the text actually addresses that directly.
Okay.
It emphasizes that true religious experience isn't about blindly following some set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's about developing our own personal philosophy of living.
Right.
Something that's authentic and meaningful to us. It's about that ongoing commitment to growth, to aligning ourselves with those higher values that we've been discussing.
So it's less about dogma and more about personal exploration.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about that active engagement with our beliefs, constantly questioning, reflecting, refining our understanding. Mm-hmm. And for some, that process, can involve profound, even mystical experiences.
Right, like the Apostle Paul's conversion on the road to Damascus.
Yes.
The text definitely highlights that as a really powerful example of transformation.
It does.
Yeah.
But it also acknowledges that, for many, conversion is a more gradual evolution.
Okay.
A slow and steady awakening to a deeper truth.
Right.
It's not always that, singular earth-shattering event. It's more about that ongoing commitment to growth, to aligning ourselves with those higher values.
So it's about the journey, not just the destination.
Exactly. And, while those mystical experiences can be very powerful, the text also offers this word of caution. It warns against, actively seeking them out, suggesting that true spiritual connection isn't found in these, fleeting moments of ecstasy or visions.
This is interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, the text suggests that it's easy to misinterpret, subconscious thoughts or desires as divine messages.
Right.
It emphasizes that true connection, the kind that leads to lasting fulfillment, comes from a much deeper place.
Okay.
It comes from sincere faith, from reflective worship, from genuine heartfelt prayer, practices that help us to cultivate that inner stillness and clarity to connect with something greater than ourselves.
It's about living those values, not just talking about them or chasing after mystical experiences.
Exactly. And speaking of living those values, the text points to Jesus as the ultimate example of someone who embodied this idea of spiritual wholeness, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. He's often portrayed as the epitome of compassion and love.
And the text highlights how his personality was perfectly unified. It describes him as someone who embodied both, this immense strength and this profound compassion. This is a powerful reminder that true strength and true compassion aren't mutually exclusive.
Right.
They can and should coexist within us.
It's that beautiful balance, isn't it? And I love how the text actually gives us these practical qualities that we can reflect on in our own lives, things we can strive to cultivate within ourselves.
Yes.
Qualities like genuineness, balance, kindness, courage, generosity.
Those really resonated with me too. Imagine the ripple effect if we all, just focused on embodying those qualities a bit more in our daily lives. If we responded to challenges with courage and compassion, if our interactions were infused with genuineness and generosity.
It's almost like a call to action, isn't it? And it makes me think about how true religious experience, the kind that creates lasting change, it extends far beyond just personal peace.
Right.
It's about taking those spiritual insights, that inner transformation, and channeling them into outward action, into service to others.
Now that is a powerful thought.
Yeah.
And a perfect note to end on, wouldn't you say?
I think so. This deep dive has been incredible, honestly, just full of so many thought-provoking ideas. I know I'm going to be pondering these concepts for quite some time.
As you should. The journey of spiritual growth is ongoing, always unfolding. The key is to stay curious, stay open, and just embrace the exploration. You never know what insights you might uncover along the way.